Great honor of coming with John Lewis on one of these faith in politics missions down south. And I did an op-ed with the late Mr. Lewis, and I talked about my grandfather. He talked about how Gandhi's teachings of Satyagraha influenced civil rights and the civil rights movement, which, by the way, allowed my parents to come to the United States, because the 1965 Immigration Act is what opened up the country to people coming from Asia. Before that, they weren't allowed to come, basically, to the United States. And Mr. Lewis said something to me, which we put in the op-ed, and I haven't forgotten. He said, technology rights are the new civil rights. Technology rights are the new civil rights. Bro, you have an opportunity. The Indian American community has done incredibly well in Silicon Valley. Many of them, by the way, went to HBCUs. You know why? As faculty? Because I didn't realize this. Someone told me, Bill Spriggs, the late Bill Spriggs, he was the chief economist at the AFL-CIO. And he said, well, do you know why there's so many Indian faculty at HBCUs? I said, no, Bill, I don't know why. He said, it's because the Harvards and Stanfords didn't hire them. It was the HBCUs that first took a chance on Indian Americans to be part of the faculty. And so Mr. Lewis said, look, now you have the Indian American community doing so well in Silicon Valley. Help make the circle full. Help bring the technology leaders to the HBCUs to create economic opportunity, not out an act of charity, but because this is good talent for the country. Because combining these communities is combining the best of the freedom movements, the best of what America can be.
And the interrelationships. There's one I want to point out today that I think is very, very important for this particular meeting. All of you have heard of Ron McNair. Ron McNair was on the U.S. Challenger that blew up when he was taking a trip into space. He'd been into space before. He had played his saxophone in space. He was a member, I don't want to start a big war here today, of Omega Psi Phi fraternity. He was from the little town of Lake City, South Carolina, a little tobacco town, where when he was growing up at Carver, went to Carver High School, named for George Washington Carver, he was not allowed to use the library in Lake City, South Carolina. Ron, just before that fatal trip, stopped by my office in Columbia. He had just come from the University of South Carolina, where he had accepted a job to be a professor after this trip, which was fatal. And a lot of people wonder why that program at the University of South Carolina today is named for Ron McNair. Well, Ron said this to me on that day. He said, you know, everywhere I go, people introduce me as being this PhD in physics from MIT. But that's not how I got where I am today. He said, when I left the little town of Lake City and went up to North Carolina A&T.
As you pray.
He said, when I got there, I needed remediation. I needed people around me who understood what it was like to be denied the productive high school education. He said, with those professors whose backgrounds were similar to mine, who understood what it was like to have the experience I had. Because of them, I stand here today. That's what this program is all about. We'll talk about young people who are being, in many instances, intentionally undereducated. I'm going to say that again.
That's right.
We're talking about taking young people off the sea islands of Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, coming out of communities where the investment in their basic education has gone lacking intentionally. When you see Tennessee State University being intentionally denied over $500 million that was due them by the federal government. South Carolina State Senator, you name all of those land-grant colleges that were established in the former slave states in order to do agriculture, technical, A&T, agriculture and technical. South Carolina State A&M, agriculture and mechanical.
Yep.
They were destined to do special training, and they were intentionally underfunded. Money was withheld. That is what Roe is trying to do. Fill a gap, a void that he knows is there. And what he is doing is bringing that technology from his congressional district to Jim Clyburn's congressional district.